Chapter 12. And then we set sail. Monacoville, Monaco. In the U.S., prisons operate on the principle of punishment over reform. The object is to enslave instead of to reintegrate criminals. The view that people are intrinsically redeemable is absent, and in its place, there's this bedrock of vengeance in the justice system. The cycle of hatred never stops, you might say. Now, I don't hate my country by any means, even though I have been running from it for months. I'm about as patriotic as your standard issue American. Still, the justice system really isn't a great selling point for us. Then again, can you say it's any better in Monaco? After a couple days in the Maison d'Arrêt, more of a mansion than a prison, I've come to realize convicts over here have it better than fugitives. On the run, I averaged about a single sandwich a day. In my cell, I'm treated to a diet of caviar, steak, and cheesecake. And cell is a term I use loosely. Instead of the shit-stained ceilings and rusty bunk beds of the hostels, I'm in a master bedroom-sized holding unit overlooking a landscape of rolling blue waves and dazzling green gardens. It's like my capture was just the appetizer, and they're saving everything else for the main course once I get back to the U.S. Understandable, I guess, seeing how delicious we find punishment back home. A couple days after I got here, I found out that I was due for extradition in a week's time. Well, enjoy this while it lasts, the lawyer who had come to deliver the news mentioned. It's all downhill from here. I know, dipshit. So, my days are now officially numbered. Of course, everyone's days are numbered, unofficially. As long as you're unaware of the number, though, it doesn't really matter. If you have to die, it's best to find out about it after the fact. Shot in the face, like Kenny or something, where you don't see it coming and you barely feel it at all. One moment, you're eating applesauce with your dad. The next, you're laughing with Peter at the gates of heaven, saying, "Wait, what happened again?" It's when that protection of uncertainty is stripped away that you have to deal with your mortality. And nobody likes to do that. This whole week, I've wasted hours staring out the window all day like a princess, waiting for some hero to save her or a dragon to come and end her days in a symphony of flames. I've been counting the birds that swarm the oaks and evergreens on the lawn below, imagining what it would be like to fly. Gliding. No, soaring through the clouds with them. They aren't in the air, they are the air. I could be a part of it too. Every once in a while, a stray seagull finds its way to the stone perch outside my window. I think the solitude is unraveling me because, just like a princess, I've been speaking with the birds. "You can fly anywhere you like, little guy. Why do you stay here?" I asked a seagull at my window a couple days ago. The bird offered a squawk in response. "Ah, I see. So you like it here. This place is your home," I smiled. "Well, I can understand that. But tell me, what's stopping you from exploring? Why not leave for a little while? Take a vacation. Go and rest on a palm tree or taste some city-baked breadcrumbs." The seagull squawked. All right, I'll stop pressuring you." I laughed. "See, it's just that I think you'd get a lot out of traveling. You know, I actually spent the last few months traveling myself." The seagull squawked. Yeah, it's true. I went all the way across southern Europe," I boasted. "And let me tell you, I met some great people along the way. Learned a ton, too." The seagull squawked. "Oh, yeah. I think you should for sure." The seagull was silent. I waited, annoyed that my companion wouldn't respond. Finally, it squawked. "I'm so glad you asked," I rubbed my chin. "Well, I'd recommend going to Spain. I think you'd love it there. Beautiful sunsets, plenty of statues to sit on, and endless servings of crumbs." The seagull squawked, but not in response to my statement. It let out the noise as I was halfway through. I finished and then addressed the interruption. "Well, someone's excited." "I don't blame you. You know, if you're close to Madrid, you should look for my friend Simon Lopez. He'll look pretty homeless, with a scraggly beard and stains all over his shirt. You might have a sandwich. Knowing Simon, he'll give you a bite." The seagull stared at the wall behind me. It wasn't listening, obviously. Seagulls don't do that. Still, lost in the panic-induced schizophrenia that often accompanies the final act of a prisoner's life, to me, the bird was a terrific conversation partner. "Actually, mind if I ask a favor? Since you're headed that way, It'd be great if you could pass along a message to Simon for me." The seagull squawked and slightly crouched. Even in my hallucinogenic stupor, I detected its imminent flight. The bird leaving before hearing my message for Simon could not be allowed. I proactively struck, launching my hands out of my grated window and seizing the bird. "You've got to listen to me, little guy," I pleaded. The seagull, probably shocked and certainly enduring some sort of pain, squawked. "Okay, great. So, I need Simon to know about my 3 rules. Let him know about the first one, that nobody cares about your problems and you shouldn't either. And the second one too, that small crimes aren't really crimes. He taught me that one, so I'm sure I'll get a kick out of it. Oh, and the third rule. Your life can end any time, so seizing the little moments of joy is the only way to really live it all." "That's all of them, then?" The seagull squirmed, relentlessly trying to spread its wings. I was smiling like a child as I foiled attempt after attempt. "Wait a minute, little guy. I also need you to let Simon know that I met the most amazing woman. Her name's Selene. You can tell him that she's captivating and beautiful and hysterical and smart, and that she really isn't a bitch like he probably thinks she is. Ha! That dirty dog. He might not believe it, but he needs to hear it. Tell him that she broke all of those rules I came up with. Every single one of them." I smiled and nodded like a lunatic for a while after that, holding the seagull in my hands like a football. After a while, looking at the seagull struggle, the manic episode receded. I felt almost like I was going to vomit. What the hell am I doing? I released the seagull instantly. It shot away like a bullet and became part of the sky. "I'm sorry, little guy," I said, gazing at the seagull fly away. "You didn't deserve that." God, I'm losing it. I gripped the bars of my window. Still, that's the way life goes, isn't it? I'd let Simon know that too if I could. That's the one rule that'll never change. Life doesn't care about you, and it never will. No matter what you think about it, life won't ever love you and it won't ever hate you. No matter what you do, right or wrong, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Or you do. Not like it matters anyway, right? The seagull was long gone. It had either joined the other birds and adopted the cover of the crowd, or it had blasted so far away that it was absorbed into the distance. I surveyed the garden, the sea, and the skyline for just a moment longer. All this for trash like me? It's not fair, but fuck, is it beautiful. I offered a parting wave to the unseen bird. Make sure Simon hears that, little guy. Another 2 days went by as I struggled to accept my bitter fortune. Getting behind the idea that life isn't different, that's not very hard. When it works out to specifically fuck you over, though, that's an entirely different ballgame. See, egotism works in a funny way. When you're winning, it's because you're the chosen one. You're the one apart from the million. Ego thrives in those conditions. But when you're losing, you don't want to be the chosen one. You desperately cling to the hope that you're a part of the million. Ego decays. That's what happens when you're sitting in a prison about to be shipped back to America to die for a murder you didn't commit. This must all be a dream. I don't believe it. This can't be happening to me. That brings me to yesterday. The clock read 2, almost a week since I checked into the Hotel Dalet. Most prisons don't come with a clock since they aren't very useful for prisoners. Clocks tie you to the slow creep of their hands, and it's much more enjoyable to let time fade into obscurity. Here, of course, is nothing like most prisons. A knock at the door. I was used to soft knocks 5 times a day. 3 knocks for meals, a wake-up knock, and a curfew knock. None of those usually came at 2. "Come in." The door opened, and I chuckled. It was the same guard as always, with the same out-of-place outfit. She wore a navy blue dress, its orderly little collar hidden behind a tight red ascot. Her hair was brought into a tight bun, without even a single liberated strand of hair. She looked like a flight attendant, and a good one at that. "Another lunch?" I asked. "No," she gently shook her head. "You have a visitor today, Mr. Parity." "Oh?" I said with a vacant stare. "A visitor?" "It was unexpected for us, too," she said with a slight frown. "Follow me." I did, tracing her steps to the staircase at the end of the corridor. can't be. But then, who else? She led me out to the stately lawn I'd been examining from my window for days and stopped. The lawn was even more magnificent than I'd imagined from my limited vantage point. Cobalt waves crested against the gray rocky barrier, and the green expanse of neatly cut grass lay dormant, dotted with perfectly round sand pools brimming with glittering beige pebbles. Evergreens periodically found homes across the turf, erecting randomly from the centers of sand pits. There weren't many, but the present fir trees seized attention with their eminence. Even less frequent were the oaks. There were 2 or 3 of them, all standing alone, creating ecosystems of their own with the vast networks of leaves and branches and shade they commanded. Under each of the solemn oaks sat a lonely bench. The benches were frail and weathered, but each retained the sort of dignity you might find in a retirement home on the stern faces of posterity's vanguard. "She's over there," the guard said, pointing to a stone bench under the quaint shade of an oak tree. On the bench, Selene peacefully waited for me. I raced into the shade. Every moment I was allowed to spend with her was a gift. Her shoulders stiffened and she paralyzed at the sound of my footsteps. I was fully intent on carrying her off the bench in a rotational lift, like the shade was an ice skating rink. She turned just in time to halt my advance. I tripped, trying to stop on the spot, lurching forward and crashing to the soil at her feet. "Pat!" she said, giggling at my newly prone position. "Selene!" I rolled over. "What the hell was that?" "Sorry, they gave me strict orders. Physical contact is off limits," she said with a bittersweet laugh as I picked myself off the floor. She sported a slight frown as she watched me brush dirt off my prison-issued blue jeans. "Well, that sucks," I sighed. "Nice of them to let me in on that little secret, huh?" I got on top of the bench next to her and planted my feet next to her patterned bag. Straggling rays of sunlight penetrated the oak's thick blanket of shade. One struck a falling strand of Selene's hair. How does she get it so smooth like that? Like porcelain or silk or something. She turned and caught me staring. "Like what you see?" "How could I not?" I shrugged, tapping her bag with my foot. "Oh, yeah!" she exclaimed. "What?" Selene sent a wandering hand into her bag and dug around for a bit before pulling out a passport. "You're sweet, aren't you?" I said. "Oh? So you know what this is, then?" she asked with a cheeky grin. "Of course," I smiled. "You think I'd forget good old Juan Marco?" "Nope," she said, her smile widening. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my mouth hanging open. "It's mine, idiot." She opened it, displaying her photograph and information, and a small white ticket fell out. "What's that, there?" I asked, pointing to the paper on the ground. "A plane ticket. I'm going to America." "With you," she said with an eager smile. "What do you mean?" "Oh, well, it'd be hard to follow the story with a 6-hour time difference, wouldn't it?" "Ah, I see." I shut my eyes. "So, you're still gonna write it?" "Yeah," she smirked. "But the focus will be a little different." "Oh?" "Injustice on a larger scale. It's a story of adventure and misfortune. It follows one Patrick Parity across La Côte d'Azur, from his wrongful persecution to his exoneration," she said, writing the synopsis in the air. "So it's fiction, then?" I smiled in jest. "Well," she replied, "more speculative reporting, I'd say." "What about the movement, then?" I asked, pursing my lips. "It's still important, but I have my journalistic integrity. I can't just lie so it fits my agenda." "Well, aren't you a dying breed?" I joked. "Shut up," she smiled. "Besides, other things are important to me too now. Think about it, Pat. Your story's already big news. If I can stir up public opinion even a little bit, we might have a shot at getting you off." I nodded and stared at her adoringly. How did I ever get so lucky? "You know," I said under a fog of enchantment, "I really wish I could hug you." "Yeah." She shut her eyes and displayed her spotless white teeth. A warm silence wrapped its arms around the two of us as the coastal breeze ushered a salty fragrance into the air. My stomach began to boil and my palms got moist. Is that what I'm feeling? The warmth moved up to my face and my cheeks flushed pink. I gazed at her, waiting until her sapphire eyes met mine. Yeah, it is. Selene, I know, Pat. Me too. I looked at my feet and laughed, tightening my lips into a slight frown. She reached out for my shoulder, but stopped herself and left her arm floating in the air. Let's get you out of trouble first, okay? I nodded. She moved her arm to pick up the ticket. I glanced over as she slipped it into her notebook. Hey, Selene. Yeah? What's that notebook for? It's, she stammered, blushing as she stuffed it into her bag. Well, promise not to judge? Scout's honor, I said, placing my hand over my heart. She stared back blankly, and I cringed. Do they not have Boy Scouts over here? It means I promise. Fine, I guess I'll tell you, she said. It's a diary, sort of. That's cute, I smiled. It's not cute, she defended, clutching her bag off the bench. It's not just some stupid book I used to jot shit down about my crush. So, I'm not in there? Shut up, idiot! Look, I was serious. I think it's really cool, honest. But if you aren't writing about that sort of stuff, what are you writing about? I asked. It's like a memoir, she explained with a sigh. I write about my life, but more like a novel than a diary. I keep tabs on what I've done, and it helps my writing stay fresh. Ah, makes sense, I tilted my head up. Maybe I'll start one. Please, she laughed, as if it'd be any good. Fair point, I returned. We spent the next 20 minutes in easy, fluid conversation. She told me about her first kiss. She was 10 on a bench in Paris. Belleville, to be exact. It was under a similar shady oak tree with one of her older brother's friends. A fond memory. I told her about the first time I took Kenny outside the house. We'd gone to Hyde Park, a little affluent plaza in Tampa. He slept in a stroller and I walked him around. People smiled and made baby noises as we passed them. A fond memory. Pat, what time is it? Selena asked after a while. 2:25. Why? I asked after checking my watch. It looks like I've only got a couple minutes left, she frowned. Hey, Selene. Yeah? She asked, smiling softly. Why are you doing this? Well, I had to visit you, idiot. How else was I supposed to let you know I'm coming with you? She giggled. No, Selene. I mean, why are you coming at all? I put my hands on my knees and looked straight ahead. You don't have to, you know. I mean, what if none of it matters in the end? I care too much, she said. Huh. I turned to face her. That's what she said last time. I'm serious. So am I, she said. It's the right thing to do. And I've made up my mind, so quit complaining. Selene, it doesn't matter. I rubbed my face in frustration. Whether it's right or wrong, I mean. I'm happy you're coming, don't get me wrong. But just because what you're doing is right doesn't mean it's gonna work. I guess I just don't want you to get hurt, is all. Sure. She shrugged off my words like her tight red dress. Maybe it doesn't work. That would be tough, wouldn't it? You know what definitely won't work, though? Not trying. I have to try, she said, trading her smile for a firm scowl. I see where you're coming from, but why risk wasting your time and effort? For me? I asked. I mean, wouldn't it be easier for you not to? Easier? Who are you? That's not what you're about. She stared at me, prying away my defenses with those blue eyes. Look, you know that better than I do. That's why you're here, after all. You could have just run away, settled somewhere remote, been happy. That's not what you did, though, is it? I turned away and buried my face in my hands. She had a point. Why exactly had I clung to Monaco? Why had I held on to the hope of clearing my name? Surely it would have made more sense to just run away. No, but, well, I stammered, turning back to her. Well, it's different for me, okay? I mean, it was a matter of life or death. I had no choice, but you do. You'd be happier if you traded that ticket in for a flight home and just forgot about me. Selene looked at my eyebrows, desperately squeezing together. She saw my lips tremble in an effort to remain firm, and hers settled into a tender smile. You told me about your friend, Simon. I want you to think about him. About this, she said, pulling another passport out of her bag. When he gave you this, was it the easy thing to do? No. Doesn't seem that way to me, at least. But he did it anyway. Because he cared about you, idiot. Caring like that is what makes us human. You're human too, you know. She placed a hand on the back of the bench right behind me. I'm human too. It's not too late? I felt an intense heat behind my eyes, and the image of Selene slowly blurred. Rivers started to burn upon my cheeks and drip down onto my chest. She laughed, and the glint of her smile pierced through the watery shield welling up in my eyes. I sniffled, grabbing some fabric from the neck of my t-shirt to dry the streams of my face. Maybe not. After I'd cleaned my face, Selene looked over my shoulder and frowned. I dropped my shirt and stared at her until my eyes burned. Behind her, the sea stretched out endlessly. In the distance, a sailboat crossed the horizon. She gave me a firm smile. In our parting moments, it only made sense that she'd be the strong one. So, see you across the sea, then. It's a date.